guests and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Are you a family caregiver? Are you caregiving for someone who can no longer take care of themselves? Are you overwhelmed? This is Caregiver Solutions Info with Marcia Teele. Marcia will be hosting an hour of true stories and information, tips and updates of the latest research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marcia has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden Courts, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marcia covers everything you need to know as a family caregiver, especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marcia Teele, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
Welcome, everyone, to Caregiver Solutions Info Show. I'm Marcia Teele. I'm happy that you're here with us today. We are live from Boca Raton, Florida, with another wonderful program for you. If you're a caregiver, a family, unpaid family caregiver, it's a hard job, and you know it, and we know it. And this show is for you and for those around you to learn more about caregiving, especially when you're caring for someone who can't care for themselves anymore because of dementia, whether it's Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, anything else that's causing dementia, like vascular dementia, strokes, things like that. This show focuses on caregiving efforts when you're caring for someone with memory loss. And so we have experts in the field, all different kinds of professionals, to help you, the caregiver, along the way to hopefully make your caregiving journey just a little bit better. So it's almost Valentine's Day, about 10 days away from today, and you might be thinking, gee, you know, what do I do for Valentine's Day? Because the things that I used to do for my husband or my wife might not be working anymore or won't work anymore because dementia definitely changes things. So today we have a wonderful guest, and she is going to be sharing with us how to say you care in more ways than one and show that person that has dementia how you feel, and hopefully then they can also share how they feel back in a different way. And so I'm excited to have joining us again is Dr. Kate Mccarty. Dr. Mccarty has been on the show before, and she is a dementia coach and an author of several books related to dementia. And I'm excited that she's calling in today from her home office on the west coast of Florida. So welcome, Dr. Kate.
Thank you, Marcia. It's a pleasure to join you today.
I'm glad that you're here. Very excited, and this is a great topic. We're going to be talking about love, and, you know, it is close to Valentine's Day, so I thought this would be something that caregivers certainly could use, because it's hard when you're a caregiver to do the things you used to do for Valentine's Day, like going out to dinner. Hello, how many people have to stop doing that when they're caring for somebody with dementia? So there's lots of things that don't work anymore, and you're going to help us figure out and explore what we can do and how we can show the people we care for how we feel. So let's just get right to it, and tell me what this topic is all about, because I know that this is going to be a heart-to-heart talk. It really is. You talk to caregivers all the time. You do speaking engagements throughout the country, and you really connect with your caregivers. So let's just start off with how we can show the ones we care about how we feel.
Well, you know, the key for me with dementia is everyone's on a different stage of the journey. And no matter what the diagnosis, there are very predictable changes, so that what maybe was once the spouse that was fully engaged and had no cognitive change, and those memories that we have of anniversaries and Valentine's days, they can't happen anymore. Maybe in my case, maybe the spouse is more like a young teen, and we don't do the same things with young teens that we did with a fully grown man. That's very basic what I just said, but there's a moving back in the cognitive abilities and the emotional processing. So listeners may resonate with this, like even if it's your dad, suddenly your dad who you go to with a problem, that's not the relationship you have anymore. You can't go to dad for the problem. Sometimes it'll agitate him. Sometimes he doesn't have an answer anymore. So it becomes a sadness. So one of the things I have put some time into is looking at Gary Chapman. Dr. Gary Chapman wrote a book, The 5 Love Languages, and I have used that to look at dementia. And I encourage caregivers to read the book. It's a lovely, lovely book, and it wouldn't matter whether it was your son. Sadly, there are some folks with sons with dementia, or your spouse. You would get something from the book because we all speak a different love language. There's 5 of them, and the ones that I find seem to bear the test of time as dementia progresses are words of affirmation and touch. But it was very interesting putting this together, and I encourage caregivers to think about this, what their love language is. Because what I have found as I read the book and put some of the workshop together is that the things that annoy me the most as a caregiver are the ones that are of my primary love language. And in my case, that's acts of service. So if you're going to take out the trash, that means much more to me than if you tell me that you love me and I'm beautiful. I'm just wired that way. We could go into lots of reasons why the words of affirmation don't mean much to me, and it's not that the person's not trying, but it's helpful to me to know where I am wired, and then to look at those things and realize that they're replacing the other things.
So in Dr. Chapman's book, he's talking about the 5 love languages, how people express their love in different ways. And the 5, just so we can let everybody know what the 5 are, words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, which you just mentioned, and physical touch. So when you figure out which one of these works best for you, or maybe which works best for the person you're caring for, I think then we can tweak it, per se, to make it our own and tweak it because of the dementia. I mean, he wrote the book with not dementia in mind, but you're applying the same principles in the same type of situation, but maybe in a little bit of a different way, correct?
Correct. And, I didn't go as far as perhaps some of our listeners can, which is, my husband, my mother was always one that liked to receive gifts. Imagine she now lives at a memory care community. Then knowing that about her, can you take her something that's appropriate for how she is today? The jewelry, that's not going to ring her bell anymore. It did one time. I remember my mom loved to receive gifts, and it had to be just right and from a certain store. Well, if I had that store's box, it was Hutzler's from Baltimore, if any of our listeners know Hutzler's. I could easily, in late stage, give my mom something much simpler, like candy or something, in a Hutzler's bag or a Hutzler's box. But in reality, Hutzler's is probably no longer in her data bank. But she's going to respond best with those gifts. The gifts just change. The same thing with acts of service. If you're cleaning up a room every time you go, or if you're making sure that your mom's, area looks just the right when you go to visit her house. If her primary love language was acts of service, that will matter. But instead, if her primary love language was quality time, and you're always on a move, you may find some angst there. And I think it very much helps to look at the bigger picture. But I think for me, and this is where I'm at, because remember, I have an early stage of dementia, of the Alzheimer's type. That's my husband. For me, the love languages help me do self-care, too. And when I looked at the 5 love languages, I know for my husband, physical touch, well, some people would go down the sexuality rabbit hole, and I can't do that for many reasons. Whole other show, Marcia. But instead, I can learn how to do a hand massage. You look up hand massages on Pinterest, and there are a million. He loves foot massage, and as a retired CNA, I have a really difficult time dealing with people's feet. But, I could do that. I know that would get me, if he would find that very honoring. So to look at these love languages and apply them both from our caregiver's perspective, because we are in this mix, this comes from a place where I feel like, as now that I'm in the ranks of all the people I've told what to do all these years, we spend an awful lot of time hearing what we should do. And rather than shoulding on ourselves, let's look at this as a way that we too can take better care. Self-love. I'm not going to have, we were never big on romance anyway, so those romantic things have to look different. And that might include me just booking a massage, right, for myself.
There you go.
For Valentine's Day, right? It doesn't have to be that it's going to come from that person. And in my case, I still get many acts of service. When I whine about one, I have to remind myself of the 3 things he still does. And I'm very blessed because of what stage I'm in, too. So it's just a lens. We're all looking through a different lens on where our loved one is. But the love languages kind of spoke to me because there are ways. And quality time, like if the other transference is if my primary love language is quality time, and I'm going to go sit in the room with my mom for hours, and it somehow doesn't count unless it's 3 hours, that may not be appreciated by her. She instead might rather have me bring a nice lunch and then get out of there, right? She may be a receiving gift girl. So we have to look at what's my motivation, because quality time might not be where it's at. And we all have to look at it at different, kind of keep churning it and saying, okay, that's about me, but what will mom resonate with?
So it's a balance, really.
It's a balance. And then the words of affirmation, I feel like they can be poetry if if it's a person that's very literary. But in reality, I think the conversation hearts nail it. They've gotten a little risque lately, but...
Are you talking about the little candies?
Yes, those little candies. When you look at the Montessori method of simplifying as our brains change in dementia world, we have to simplify the message. So, I love you to the moon and back is plenty. Or, I love you, and then this happens in my little world. He'll say, I love you, and remember, the words of affirmation aren't a bell ringer for me, but I say, I love you more. And so we have this exchange, and it satisfies his need, and I get it. Like, because I've looked at this, I'm like, okay, this is good. 2 things. It's usually done from another room, so it's a way to affirm that I'm still here.
Because they always want to know where you are.
Yes, but like the touch and base. Are you still there? Part of the research I did was on touching, the significance of the human skin, is a book I had read years ago when I had babies and Lamaze and all that. And he's a cultural anthropologist, and he talks about touch. And that's the other of the 5 that I've really looked at. And if you look at childhood development and what a child does at ages 2, 3, 4, Marcia, in our world of memory care communities, we're seeing people come in that are at the emotional and the cognitive staging of about a 2 to a 3 or 4-year-old, how they respond to the world.
Right.
We never treat them like that.
Right, and it's interesting that you bring that up, because just a couple weeks ago on this program we talked about the FAST test, the functional
Yes.
assessment.
My very favorite.
Yes.
Because it's the academics love it, and I'm academic, so there you go.
Yeah,
and we use it still for hospice qualifications, so it's a very trustworthy scale. It's been validated and researched. And, yeah, you're going back. So when you look at that final column at a stage 6 when you need help toileting, that's the 4-year-old. If you have children, my granddaughter she's turning 5 in March, and I'm like, I've watched her do the reverse of the FAST, because now she has no accidents, and she totally takes care of clothing herself. But most of our loved ones, our caregivers, are showing up when there's a problem with clothing.
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, right?
Right. So we have to figure out where they're at, and then once we figure out where they're at, we can use these love principles, the affirmations and acts of service, to their stage, to their ability to not only receive but to reciprocate. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, more with Dr. Kate on how to show the ones you care for that you care. We'll be right back.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help, because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
We're back, and my guest today is Dr. Kate Mccarty. She is a dementia coach and author and speaker, and she is joining us today via her office over in the west coast of Florida. I'm so happy that you joined us today, Dr. Kate. It's always good to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you asking me.
So we're talking about ways to show our loved ones that we care for that have memory loss, some form of dementia, so that they can not only understand, but they can relate. And we're talking about these love languages. Dr. Gary Chapman wrote the book, but the two that you say, Dr. Kate, that you really think work very well are the words of affirmation and the physical touch. So that's what we're going to focus on now. The words of affirmation, you talked about saying I love you, but I love you is just one way to say you care. What are some other affirmations that people can use to tell someone that they care, that they could say just any time, and that it doesn't always have to be those 3 I love you words?
For a woman, it's often, you're so pretty, or Mom, that's amazing. As a long-term activities person in dementia world, recreation therapist, didn't get that degree, but you know how that goes. I have often found, sometimes a person's answer is completely not in the direction of the conversation, and a simple wow with a very positive face is all that's needed. There's no need to correct the person. Wow, that's really something. And then moving on, right? And that's in a group setting. But one-on-one, tell me more. I've been doing a lot of meditation. It's one of the, I decided to practice what I preach. So I do a little bit of meditation every morning, and I use a free app on the phone called Insight Timer. One of my favorite speakers is Sarah Blondin, and she does probably 10, 15, maximum 15 minutes. And that's about as much time as it takes to get through my yoga stretches in the morning. But one of the things that I love that she says is, she calls me Dear One. And she says, Dear One, I'm listening. So just simply saying, I'm listening, is a powerful thing. Hopefully not with the body language where your arms are folded across your chest and you've got a frown on your face. But openness.
But people want to know that they're heard, and people want to know that you're paying attention to them. And I think sometimes caregivers get so wrapped up in all the tasks and duties they have to obtain and do and go and, take care of, that sometimes they forget just the simplest things can make a world of difference.
Yes. I have a caregiver that comes to our memory cafes up here, and she's recently placed him, and it's been really hard, although he's doing beautifully. She always calls him Love. Okay, Love. Here, Love. And I thought, that's magical. And then that another caregiver, and we're talking the hospice stage, so he's pretty far along, and not a lot of verbal responses. But she always looks in, and they fortunately are the same height. She gets right in front and looks him right in the eye. I'm here. And those are the things that make a difference. They aren't the big things that we're all rushing around to do, I understand. But even when things are going poorly and you're frustrated, if you can add something in there like that, there's so much validation for both the touch and the words of affirmation. When you look at Teele Snow, one of the best trainers in the world, and she does occupational therapy, that's her discipline. She talks about, even in early stage, your individual gets about 1 out of every 4 words. So when we throw 20 words at them, they're only hearing about 5 of those words. And I think she says the first thing to be lost is nouns. So there's a lot of confusion if you take out all the nouns out of a 20-word sentence. So the shorter words and affirming. You look at, I think this came from the Eden Alternative, I forget. I've been around so long that I don't know what training I got what from. But to always, rather than, and I do this in training, rather than say, no, Mom, your mother died 2 weeks ago or 20 years ago, she's expressing a desire for her mother. And you say, yes, and wasn't she a great mom? And now they may catch you on the past tense that you said wasn't, and you can work with that. But you've affirmed, I hear you, without saying I hear you. But you'd say yes. Yes is a powerful word. When you go to the faith healers, and it's about yes. It's about opening yourself up. So that's something that's hard for us to do as caregivers. And believe me, I know more than ever, because sometimes I hear this 13-year-old great game plan, and I'm like, oh, this so isn't going to work, and there goes my life, right? So it's very hard to practice in your own home, but yes, that would be amazing.
Well, however, I think if we remember when our kids were little, and of course we still do this in my family because I have the grandkids now are coming up, but it's all about, hey, good job. And they like to know that you notice them and that you're affirming them and they've done a good job, whatever it happened to be. And we can use that simple, hey, good job, to our spouse when maybe they're helping us, sort the silverware, put it in the right spot, or folding napkins, or whatever it might be. And just affirming them. And even if it's not a perfect job, it's a great job. And I think that caregivers, the more they can utilize these affirmations, I think the easier things will be for them, because they'll see, I think, a difference in how their loved one responds to them when the loved one is feeling, I'm heard, they see me, they get me, they I'm here, and I'm loved. And that's part of this love language is, hey, great job. So we want to use these more in our daily interactions with our loved ones, right?
Yes, and I need a hug, For me to say that or for him to say that, that's great, and a hug. Holding hands while you walk. That's a simple thing. You see couples doing it all the time, older couples. The research shows that there's high intimacy later in life, the gerontology research, but that intimacy is not what your 20-year-old college student thinks it is when they read the gerontology book. It is holding hands. It's the touch. It's the massage. It's the back rub. It's just a gentle hand on a shoulder. When you look at Teele, again, with the hand under hand approach that she teaches, very much it's about how you approach someone. And even like in hospice training, we were trained, I was a volunteer, we were trained not to put the hand over the person that was making the transition, not to put it over their hand, put it under, because I'm allowing you to go. I'm allowing you freedom. And that's powerful, And that's part of my mission, is that we live with as much well-being and resilience and security as we can. And those things are not always traditionally what we offer.
Right.
Things that, support well-being and resilience. And some of that comes from self-love. And I think for too many years, we were all about what caregivers needed to do better. and part of that wasn't self-love. And self-love is a part of that, Spending time with yourself will help you do more. Thinking back to a book years ago I read called, it was called The Artist Way. And she talked about having a date with yourself. I think she had one a week, but I'm pretty sure she was young and didn't have kids. She certainly wasn't a caregiver, but a date day, a day that you just spend time with yourself. It might be a few errands in there, but you're going to get the massage, or you're going to go get your eyebrows plucked, or whatever that is. That you're taking time for yourself.
And I think in that way too, that shows and gives our loved one maybe a little bit of confidence, knowing that we are not, as caregivers, stressed out. We're not all thinking about what we need to be doing, and we're not doing it, because if we're distracted and we're stressed out, then we're not giving our loved one our best. And that is a way to show love to them, is giving them your best. And you can't be your best if you're not taking care of yourself.
So true. Yeah. That's for sure.
And
so this is a big holiday, but when you look back in time, it wasn't a big holiday. Maybe look back. I mean, my mom, we never did Valentine's Day. This might be a couple holiday, and certainly our Hallmark and our franchises have worked hard to make Valentine's Day important. But we can certainly look at anniversaries or just things to do along the way. Once a week. I was thinking to myself the other day, why don't we have date night anymore? He doesn't want to do movies, but we could do something that's just the two of us.
Well,
and we haven't been doing that.
Right, and that's part of spending time, and one of the love languages is quality time, and caregivers can maybe weave this into their week. It doesn't have to be every day. You can't have a date. People don't go on a date every day of the week, but
no.
But once a week, have a date. Have a simplified, as you say. Make it simple, but have a date. Make it special, but simple. Keep it simple, as they say. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this when we come back from our commercial break, and we're going to be giving away a book. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our national sponsor, Arden Courts Memory Care Communities. Arden Courts is a leader in memory care, and they have 10 Arden Court assisted livings here in Florida and about 50 across the United States. They are a great resource, and one of the things they'd like to do for you, the caregiver, today is to give you this free book, The 36-Hour Day, written by Dr. Peter Rabins and Nancy Mace. It is a wonderful resource. If you do not have this book, I highly recommend that you give Arden Courts a call today on their toll-free number of 888-478-2410. Tell them that you heard about this free book offer of the 36-Hour Day on the Caregiver Solution Info Show, and they'll be happy to get your name and address and make sure they mail a book to you. It's a great, great way to look up something, get definitions, get tips, get explanations and definitions. It's a really great book. So again, call 888-478-2410 to get your free book, and do it soon. My guest today is Dr. Kate Mccarty. She is a dementia coach, author, and speaker, and we're talking about love. It's close to Valentine's Day, about 10 days away, and we're talking about how we can show the ones we care how much we care, that we love them by speaking to them in their love language in ways that they'll understand and perhaps can then relate and reply back to us. So, Dr. Kate, you did mention earlier that your husband was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's, and you are in a unique position. Not only are you a dementia educator, but you're a caregiver. So you live what you speak. And this is very, I'm sure, difficult for you to do because it's harder to be, I guess, more objective, right?
Yes, for sure. I mean, I have cavalierly given advice for many years, and now I'm like, oh my, this is the biggest postdoc I've ever had. It's like not as easy as I thought it was, right?
Right. So you certainly can relate to the caregivers that you speak to and that you help because you're going through it at the same time. It is a difficult journey, and so you are always sharing and providing all this great information. And we're at the point where we're talking about affirmations and physical touch and how important those two things are and how much they go a long way into creating a balance in our lives as caregivers with the people that have memory loss. So let's talk a little bit more about the physical touch, because sometimes people can't speak, right? They're in a certain stage of dementia, or they've lost the ability to speak. They can't give back the words. Sometimes they have like the aphasia, or they don't understand. But physical touch kind of trumps all of that, I would think, because people can feel your heart when you're holding hands or giving a hug. And I think we always say a smile is the universal language, and touch, same thing, shaking hands, giving hugs. So what happens when people don't have touch in their lives?
It's a huge deficit. We have quite a few research studies on the lack of touch in skilled nursing care. But what we are finding, that was older research. Now we're finding that the nurse's touch makes a big difference. So they're suggesting that people spend more time, and I'm talking professional caregivers, putting on the lotion, doing that extra. One of the studies I found really fascinating, early days, and of course I'm saying 90s, which to me doesn't seem that long ago, but apparently it is. In research, that's really a long time ago, is that people who had a vitamin D deficiency were touch sensitive. And that was very, of course, part and parcel for some of the old homes where there was no outdoor access. So one of the beautiful things about assisted living, particularly a memory care community like Arden Courts, is that you have ready outdoor access, which gives you more vitamin D. So what they found is if they could give people vitamin D supplements, then they weren't so touch averse. Of course, one of the best trainings I ever went to was years ago, also provided by Arden Courts, was Naomi Feil, and Feil. She talks about mother, father, and spouse touch, and we practiced this at our workshop recently. And mother touch is very much like the palm of the hand on the face, almost like if you were reaching out to a child in a high chair, you would probably take their little cheeks hand to hand, right?
Right.
So, and she uses this. You'll see, you can find her on YouTube, and you can see her doing it with a lovely woman named Gladys Wilson, and she's using mother touch. And then there's father touch, which is back of the head, a nice stroking. And when someone is no longer communicating and often looking for their mother, we can meet that need by this type of touch.
Because they would remember that.
Yes,
they would remember that from their childhood, because those memories are the last to go. The things that they first learned and first remember, the last to go with dementia.
And even things like I find myself constantly wanting to do this when I'm out and about. We call it bedhead. Those of us that have been in the business long enough know when a person's in care because the back of their head never gets combed. And even that Ashley Montague, the man who wrote the Touching the Significance of Human Skin, talks about the grooming behavior of the primates. Well, we have grooming behavior. Our mother didn't let us go out of the house without maybe a little spit and polish on our hair, or taking care of that cowlick, that kind of thing, so that grooming becomes a part of touch. One of the things I want to go back to Dr. Chapman. This, I think, works both ways, and he says it's important to distinguish between love as a feeling and love as an action.
What's the difference, and why is there a difference?
Well, he is actually, in the book, he's coaching a family of a couple that look like they're going to divorce. It's just that bad, and they both have been speaking the absolute opposite love languages for years. And so the gulf keeps getting bigger between them. And so he's encouraging the wife who wants to save her marriage, you're going to have to put the feeling aside and make the action. And she didn't want to do physical touch, but it was her husband's primary love language. So that's kind of where that comes from. As a caregiver, whether it's your mom, and I can relate to this with my mom in cancer, sometimes you have to put your stuff aside and meet them where they are. My mom she was one of the only people that raged into that dark night. I have been to many end-of-life scenarios, and my mom fought to the bitter end. And I just why can't she just go gracefully? But nope. But it was where she was. And to allow her to do that was action, not to fight it and over-medicate or whatever one would do to make this happen my way, to meet them where they're at. So taking that action. And this is the daughter that, constantly has to find her mother's glasses, and she's just annoyed, but that's the action, is finding her glasses. And doesn't that go back to self-care? because if that daughter is racing around and not having any time for herself, the resentment leaks out. It
Right.
becomes so obvious. Yeah.
Right.
So it's a bigger thing. And that's the case for, I mean, I know for me, sometimes feeling love for myself is hard, but I can still make myself go to the gym because that's an action. That's where I'm taking action.
Right.
And I can rewrite that thought and say, no, this is for a time. It's only for a time. One of the blessings of dementia is that if you're going through a difficult stage, you won't be there forever. It's going to change.
Things do
Yeah.
definitely change. So there's been some studies done showing that touch, especially when it involves people with memory loss that have negative behaviors, which many do, that touch actually calms them down and the negative behaviors can be lessened and their feeling of self-esteem can be elevated.
Heightened. Yes, absolutely. I found again and again, the research looking at dementia and touch, that there was a significant change in behavioral problems and also in sleep. One of the ones was a back rub, and they found it was in a skilled nursing. So we're talking, skilled nursing. It's a different animal than assisted living. And just a 10-minute, I think it was a 10-minute back rub, increased their pattern of sleep just exponentially. It was so worth it. Worth it for the aides and worth it for the patients and the next morning,
Yes.
So powerful.
Yeah,
Powerful.
especially for those people that have a hard time falling asleep or staying asleep because they're afraid. People with dementia sometimes get paranoia. They sometimes have delusions. They have all kinds of things going on. But I think that if you get a routine and something like that, like a back rub for 10 minutes before they go to sleep, can probably alleviate a lot of those issues. Now, I'm not, a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but thinking about my children and my grandchildren, who I still rub backs, when they were little and now with my grandchildren, it does make them calm and it makes them feel comforted and it makes them feel safe. And I think, that's what we want for our loved ones.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
That is for sure. So, but it's powerful tools, and it's simple. These are not complicated solutions. They don't require a pharmacist. They're not. And one of the things I encourage people to do is to practice. Like, we literally pulled up on Pinterest how to do a hand massage, and we did that on ourselves. How many of us, our hands are rough because we're all of a sudden doing dishes and we didn't used to do dishes, or the list goes on. We're having to change oil or do gardening that we didn't used to do. So giving yourself the hand massage is practice, and then you can do that for your loved one.
Something you can do together to each other because it doesn't really take, any equipment or anything, just a little lotion and sometimes.
Yeah, and it can be a nice smelly one or whatever. My mother loved the rose water kind, and it's I always think of old women. I know that's terrible, but it's true.
Yeah, and
lilac. Water, yes.
Lavender.
Lilac, yes. And now I'm also using Aveeno with lavender because it makes me think of the lavender my mom kept in her drawers.
See, there you go. So it's eliciting memories too.
Circle. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Right, there's memories. Well, there's so many ways to say I love you. Dr. Gary Chapman has it in the 5 love languages that he talks about in his book. But interestingly enough, I came across this book called The I Love You book. And I have it here.
Nice.
Yeah, I just thought I wanted to share this with everybody. It's called The I Love You book. And it says more than 500 ways to show the ones you love that you care. And it is written by Cynthia McGregor and Vic Bob. And this is just, amazing that someone had to put all of this into a book to share with others how to say I love you and show that you care. And I think that if we were to go through this book, we would find a lot of examples of the things that you're saying, Dr. Kate, and sharing, because this book is for spouse to spouse, adult children to parents, parents to
Right.
adult children, and adults to like little kids, like grandchildren. There's everything in here for examples and ways, simple things that you can do, things that maybe we've never thought of before. And I think this is what it's all about, is being creative, doing the simple things in a maybe different way than what we traditionally have been doing, because it's better for our loved ones where they're at in their stage of dementia. So I just wanted to share this book with everybody, that if you can find it, I bought it several years ago, so I don't know if it's still available. You can check on Amazon, but it is certainly worth checking out, as is, like you said, Dr. Kate, Dr. Gary Chapman's love languages. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to find out where you can see Dr. Kate. She's coming to Florida. She travels. She's going to have an engagement. She's going to share with that when it is and how you can sign up to come see Dr. Kate in person right here in South Florida. But we'll be right back right after this commercial break.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help, because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
Welcome back. My guest, Dr. Kate Mccarty, dementia coach, author, and speaker, on the phone joining us from her home office on the west coast of Florida. But you're coming to our area soon, aren't you, Dr. Kate?
I am, February 19th on a Wednesday, joining Arden Courts of West Palm Beach at the Area Agency on Aging out there on North Congress. I say that cavalierly. I will find it. You all probably know where it is. And we're going to have registration at 9. There'll be breakfast. And then I'm sharing on, I'm so excited to be in the year 2020. A, who knew we'd get here, right? And B, it's all about focus and perspective and vision and hindsight, and I'm very excited about that. So it's the 2020 focus on caregiver resilience. Resilience is a term that shows up all the time in the research. It's a little bit hard to figure out, but it means I can do it. And it's very empowering. The research on how we can stay resilient is so much about what we've been talking about today, only we'll look at it more in depth, and we'll do some practice. I always try to make it an interactive seminar. There'll be a time for question and answers, and I'm pretty excited about it. The first people to tour Arden Courts will get one of my books. So that's kind of an extra.
Awesome. So if you'd like to see Dr. Kate up close and in person and speak to her, ask her some questions, you can go to this free seminar February 19th in the West Palm Beach, and they can call Arden Courts of West Palm to make a RSVP, perhaps.
Yes, it's 561-688-9999.
Okay, 561-688-9999. Call Arden Courts of West Palm if you would like to attend this free seminar with Dr. Kate coming up in West Palm on February 19th. Also, at this time, I'd like to announce another opportunity. It is Black History Month, and everything that we talk about here on this show to help caregivers, I think that every culture that goes through this in their families has it a little bit differently, whether someone is Spanish or Chinese or from another country or perhaps of a different color. And there is a film that was actually produced by Renee Fatah, and it is showing the impact that Alzheimer's has on communities of color. And there's going to be a free showing with reception and questions and answers on a panel at this particular on this subject. I mean, this is a very, very important subject, and I know that it probably isn't talked about enough. And this is going to be in Tampa on February the 12th. And I just want to let everybody know that it's going to be actually held at the First Baptist Church of College Hill in Tampa. The film is called In Our Right Mind: The Impact of Alzheimer's in Communities of Color. If you would like to go and attend, you can go to eventbrite.com. That's Eventbrite, BRITE.com. Search under the search box for In Our Right Mind, and you can sign up to attend this special preview of this particular film. I think it's going to be very well received and very important, a very good discussion on how Alzheimer's is affecting communities of color in maybe different ways that perhaps we haven't thought of. So we have two opportunities right here in Florida, Tampa, West Palm, that you can go as a caregiver to these free events. Just sign up and you'll be glad that you did. So, Dr. Kate, we're talking about affirmations, touch. These are love languages that we can share with our loved one. What about support groups? Really quick. I know that you do support groups. You run memory cafes. What's your final words before we have to close today?
One of the things that we're finding, I just did a survey monkey on our memory events here in Tampa Bay, and people are finding that the beauty of Memory Cafe is its couple time. That's one of the write-ins that I keep seeing. It's couple time.
Yes.
It's time that I get to be with my mom when she's having fun. So it's like, and it seems like it's just right. They're all about an hour and a half, and it's a good time. It's as if a date. One person said, it's our date night, but it happens at 10 in the morning or 11 in the morning, right? So that's a very positive way to get out and about. But support for yourself, even if it's a creative online support, we have lots of online support groups and support systems that help you vent, because it's really hard to find someone that you can get real with. I'm lucky. I've got peers that have worked with me for years, and I can call, and they protect my vent. But it's nice to have that anonymity, a little bit of anonymity, and know that you're in the same boat. We see the same research for memory care.
That's right.
The reason it works is that you're with like-minded people who are dealing with the same thing.
That's right.
So
and
it's
Dr.
kind of
Kate,
a community.
Dr. Kate, if someone wanted more information or wanted to, look up some of the other things that you're doing, how can they do that?
They could go to Kate Mccarty, that's CateMcCarty.com, or they can email me at katemccarty@gmail.com.
Okay, give that website one more time.
Yes, it's Kate, CateMcCarty.com.
And you'll have lots of information on that website with what's going on, how people can connect with you, things that they can learn, things that they can share. So I think you have been absolutely wonderful, as usual, for coming on to the program.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Well,
I appreciate it.
We always love having you here. It's always a treat, and perhaps I'll be able to see you when you come to West Palm Beach on February 19th. Looking forward to that.
Very good. Thank you so much, Marcia.
Thank you. And thank you, our audience, for listening, for tuning in today, whether via your radio, your smartphone, your computer, iHeartRadio even, and checking this out. And we will have another great show for you next week. In the meantime, don't forget, give someone a hug because they need it, and so do you. And we'll see you next time on Caregiver Solutions Info Show. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Caregiver Solutions with Marcia Teele. Join us next week as Marcia, who has 15 years of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care experience, brings you more needed information to help with the care of your loved one. This show can be seen again on caregiversolutions.info, and questions can be left on the site, which may be used on the program to help others. See you next week for more Caregiver Solutions.